Okay. So what I'll do is I'll hand over to you, Aderyn, and I'll leave you to it. The show's all yours, as you say.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. Thanks everyone for having us here tonight. It's really great to be able to join you. And yeah, so as far as I know from Adrian, from me, you're wanting to hear about my testimony. And yeah, Lizzie's just going to give me some pointers, because you know, you never know how long or short it should be. So, but he has given me
We've got to 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that's fine. We were banking on that. Go for it, Lizzie.
Great, thanks. I am just going to apologise now because my internet is being very temperamental. So if I drop out, it's nothing personal. So yeah, I'm just going to ask a few questions to Aderyn. I've got my trusty little notebook here. Just in terms of your testimony, Aderyn, why don't you tell us a little bit about your childhood? Like, were you raised in a Christian home or not? Why don't we start there? Start at the beginning.
No, that is a good place to start. And I think Magnus was asking me where my name is from. So my name, Aderyn, is Welsh because I have a Welsh father. We did live in Wales for a short period of time, but I'm actually originally from Africa. I was born in Zimbabwe. And my grandparents on my maternal side are English, but they emigrated there for work. My mum was born there. And then obviously my parents met there and were married and had myself and my brother. And yes, I was born in a Christian family. My grandparents are strong believers from the Forest of Dean, where we now live, although living in Africa for over 30 years. And my mum and my dad were both Christian as well. So I did have that upbringing. I knew about Jesus and God from a young age, and we went to church. And I officially, when I gave my life to Jesus, I was 8 years old, and we were on a King's Kids music ministry tour in Wales at the time, and it was really impactful for me. And so at that really young age, I decided, yeah, I want to live for Jesus. And so that was then. There's a lot more to it, though, as you could all imagine. So Lizzie would always ask me there, was it smooth sailing there? Was that it? Is that it? Is that how it just carried on and I lived a perfect Christian life? Well, no. Thank goodness at that time in that King's Kids tour, they taught us this little a kind of life application. They had us all standing. It was a big group. There were different ages from 5 to 18, and so there were different heights. We were all standing at different heights, and they gave us a toilet roll, and they had us unravel the toilet roll, and the toilet roll would go flat, and then it would dip, and then it would go really high to one of the tall ones, and then it would come back down again, and it would go flat again, and it just looked this crazy zigzagging effect. And they said, some of you might feel that, you've become this Christian, you've given your life to Jesus, which is amazing and awesome. And it's great here while we're in this wonderful ministry and we're singing out at different venues across Wales, and you're on this high, and that's wonderful. And you might think that, your life, your Christian walk will be like that. But actually, the reality will be like this toilet roll. You will have these wonderful highs, and you will have these mega lows, and you will plateau, and you'll grow again, and you'll dip again, and that's going to be your life, Christian life. And you know what? They were so right. I've never forgotten that illustration, and it has proven to be more than true. And it's made life exciting and despairing, but the great and wonderful thing is that they did also impart to us that God throughout all that never changes, and he is the one that is faithful no matter where we are. And so it did really, thank goodness, imprint on me. So that was the beginnings there, Lizzie.
Great, thanks. So you mentioned that had a big impact on you, and that it wasn't necessarily smooth sailing from there. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Okay, so when I was growing up, a few years after that, my father was severely ill. He had a massive stroke and brain hemorrhage and ended up in hospital for the rest of his life. And so that was a really, really traumatic season for us as a family, in and out of hospital, not knowing what was happening. He was very active as well, and that did, cause difficulties in our family. And as you're growing up, going into teenage life and school, and the world can seem so loud, and there were different pushes and pulls, and I wasn't always sure where I was taking my kind of my P's and Q's from, and who was I listening to. And so my Christian life did suffer at this time. And then at about the age 15, I started to draw back into church, find that stability again, and I was baptized at 16. But it wasn't smooth sailing ever at that point. There are so many pushes and pulls on our young people. It was the same for me then. There's lots of draws into areas that aren't so great for us, and I did find it very difficult. And then eventually I moved away to university, which was good. But again, that not having a solid home life at that time, even though my family were Christian, and not having a solid church base, you're quite loose in the world, and the world is very, very loud, and it's very intrusive, and it pulls you in all sorts of directions. And I certainly found myself being pushed and pulled. I never ever felt that God left me. I always returned to that, and would seek him definitely when things were hard. That's what you do. But I wasn't being spiritually mature, and I wasn't growing in my faith. And then in my final year of university, my father passed away. He was still in hospital at that time. And my grandfather passed away at the same time. And it was very, very difficult. I was writing my finals at the time. And again, looking back at that toilet roll illustration, that was not a high point. It was very difficult. But all through that, the presence of God was very real to me. And having made that commitment when I was younger, he certainly didn't forsake me. He didn't leave me. And even though I was scrabbling around, still trying to find, searches for truth and who I was and what was my place in the world. And then moving into the world of work and travel, I was still very much trying to find myself and find my purpose, but still not being spiritually mature, wasn't choosing to ask God what he thought about that. And God, in his generosity, was very much, and you can look on this with hindsight now, okay, Aderyn, we'll do it your way. and I did that, and I sought my career, and I was very career driven and focused, and I loved to travel, and I did all of that. But it came to a point, and it came to a head where I wasn't making the best life choices. I mean, from the world's terms, I was very successful, but in my heart, I was so broken. I could feel the pressure of the world. I could feel the pressure of having this literally God-shaped hole in my life, and I tried to fill it with all sorts of other things, and it wasn't being filled. And I was in London at the time. I had a really great job, and great place to live, thinking that this is exactly what I was supposed to be doing. But I was so hurt and damaged and bruised on the inside, and I just had to leave. And I did. And I was at absolute low, near breaking point. And literally that is where God met me. He picked me up, and he restored me piece by piece. And he did that through my family, who I do come from a very big family, and most of them are believers, and they never lost sight of me. They never gave up on me, even though I wasn't always making the best choices. And they were praying for me every day, and they had told me this since I was a child, and I can really testify to that fact. I've been in so many different situations that should have ended badly, but my family were praying every single day, and I really felt that. And during that time, with lots of prayer, lots of counselling, and wise words, and Bible verses and things like that, as you know how it goes, and cups of tea, they brought me back, and I started to piece my life together again. It was a really, really difficult time. So moving on from that, though, I eventually started going back to church full time. I got married, and that was a really big turning point. And when we actually had our first daughter, Vesper, so I'm a mum, and we have 2 girls, Vesper, she's 7, and Esme is 4. And these were all things I never ever thought I wanted. And this is absolute testimony to how God works. And when you're working and living in his plan for you, things change and things are so much better than you can ever imagine. Because I only ever wanted a career. I did not want to get married because I felt that I would be trapped. And I did not want children, again, because I thought I would be trapped in that, that wasn't what I wanted to do.
If you hadn't jumped up, maybe you'd have got one. So that works one then.
Hey, Ron. And so, as I drew closer to God and started giving over these desires and things that I wanted, it was actually so revealing about actually God's plans and his purposes for me, and they were so much better. So I got married again. That's a whole nother story of God's healing and restoration. We're having our first baby, had as Vesper, but I was still carrying so much shame, so much guilt, and so much pain from all the things I had done. I could see, like, through my life, I may have given my life to God at 8, but it didn't mean I wasn't going to make mistakes, and I made mistakes, and I made poor choices, and I wasn't walking with God all the time. I'd never deny him, but I wasn't in step with him. And I carried that. And I really was just like, really, God, I don't understand how you could still love me, and how after all of this, you not only love me, but you bless me with a husband, you blessed me with children, and this baby. And for me, having a baby was just, it turned my way of thinking. And I struggled with this, how much, God, will you forgive me? And will you still really, really accept me after all I've done? And he, quite audibly one night, I was thinking about how fiercely I loved this precious newborn baby. And it quite overwhelmed me, this intense love I had for my newborn. And I audibly, I'm telling you, it was incredible, heard God say, how you love that child is how much I love you. And it was just so restoring and healing. And it just brought me into such a closer relationship with God. And from that point, my real spiritual journey began, because I was accepting of his love, really, really and fully. Actually, it's okay. I have done all of this, and yet you're still taking me as I am, and you're redeeming me. And understanding the full price that Christ paid for me really became so much bigger and clearer in my understanding. So that was, I've been walking close with God for over 10 years now, but just, in that time, and he's brought us as a family through so many things, so many different trials, but because we're walking with him, it's a completely different perspective. And we've come from being absolute outsiders to the church, to both my husband and I being in ministry in the church and serving the church and others, and bringing other people to faith, and being absolute privilege of being to be a part of God's plan. And now we're senior leaders in Forest Community Church, and able to do so many different things, and wanting to serve God and his kingdom, and just wanting to keep continuing to grow in our spiritual love and life with him. So that toilet roll, don't forget the toilet roll, it's so like that. But it's worth it every step.
Thanks for sharing. That's all my questions.
Thanks, Lizzie. Does anyone have any questions for me?
They're probably going to ask them at the end.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. So I'm going to go on to ask Lizzie about her experiences now. So it's slightly different turn. And Lizzie's had some incredible experience, and I've had the privilege of walking her through these work experiences as well. And we're going to start right at the front of that, actually. But first of all, Lizzie, actually, give us a little bit about who you are. So who is Lizzie? Where's she from? Tell us something a bit interesting. That's definitely a Lizzie quirkism.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm Lizzie. How old am I? I'm 20. I had to think about that then because it's nearly my birthday. I'll be 21 in June. I live in Ross-on-Wye, and I go to the Forest Community Church, same as Aderyn. See, she prepped me this morning to think of an interesting fact about myself, and my mind has gone completely blank. I know there's plenty of interesting things I could say, but oh, I've got one. An interesting thing about me is that I get very emotional at everything. I'm the crier. I'm always the one crying. So I'm feeling very emotional now after you sharing your testimony, Aderyn. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through mine now. So if I do start crying again, don't worry, I cry all the time.
Yeah, we won't take it personally, Lizzie. Thanks. Oh, that's excellent. So I know you guys specifically wanted to hear about Lizzie's work experience with First Serve and team. So we're going to start with First Serve, which you were on between September 2018 and May 2019. So Lizzie, first of all, take us through, we're going to look at practicalities first. What was the process of getting involved and how did that pan out for you? Okay, so I actually first heard about First Serve at a Living the Passion conference. Some of you might know Living the Passion conferences. I first heard about it at Living the Passion conference probably a year and a half before I actually did First Serve. At that point, I was just like, okay, that's what I want to do when I leave school, because I was really unsure at that point. So I then had to sit on my heels, well, not sit on my heels, but I then had to wait for about a year before I could actually apply. But I went onto their website. They had so much information on there, super clear, super easy to apply. Filled out, I think it was a form, and it sent it as me. And then I got an email. It was so long ago, I can't actually remember exactly how it happened, but there was some sort of form that I had to send off. Put down some references from my church. I think I put Tim Cracknell, and I might have even put you, Aderyn, I actually can't remember. And then sent that off, and they said, yeah, that all looks great. We want you to come for an interview, which sounds really stressful. Like how old was I at this point? I would have been 17 at this point. So I was freaking out. I was like, oh, interviews are really stressful and formal. It wasn't. I went to a coffee shop and met this lovely lady who was the coordinator, and we sat down and we just talked about First Serve, what it involved, where my passions are, where my skills are, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to try, just to sort of suss out the best program for me. And yeah, then we nailed that down. I think I signed a couple of forms, and then yeah, it all went from there. Well, that's excellent. So Lizzie, that's the practicality of it. So did you feel called to do First Serve and serve in this way? Was it that, or was it just, oh, this is something I can do because I've got a gap year? Or did you feel that this was what God had in store for you? No, I definitely did feel called. I didn't think I was going to, but I definitely did. Again, at this conference, I was starting to feel like maybe going to university wasn't for me, that I wanted to do something else. And I felt that God was calling me into the direction of ministry and mission, but I didn't know how that was going to pan out. And I was in quite a fervent prayer time when I was really wrestling with it and not quite
sure what I was going to do. And I went to this conference, and the spokesperson for First Ev came up and spoke to me, because you know how you have like all of those different stands at conferences and they're all representing different things. Well, the coordinator came up to me. I went, "Are you Lizzie?" Which freaked me out, because I was like, how on earth do you know who I am? I'm a 17-year-old that's just sort of hiding in the background. And it turns out that this man had spoken to 3 different couples independently who I massively look up to and esteem in my Christian life. He was just talking to them about First Ev, and all 3 of them independently had suggested my name for this program. So he was like, well, I have to talk to Lizzie now. So he came and spoke to me, and he told me this, and it floored me a little bit, because it just blew my mind. And I was like, okay, God, I'm sensing a calling. And I think I cried for about an hour. But at that point I was like, it's quite hard to ignore now when 3 couples that I massively look up to and esteem have all suggested me for this program. So then I looked into it and I prayed about it, and I pushed all the doors, and the doors kept opening.
Oh, that's awesome, Lizzie. And I love that, how you got involved there. And so First Serve is broken up into sections, isn't it? It's not just one year doing one thing. And I think that's what's really exciting about it. So tell us, just briefly, the different things that you did in that year.
Okay, so I did the full First Serve program. So there's a number of different ways you can do it. There's like a compact one that you can do over the summer. And some local ones that you can do, but I did the full gap year program, so I was like, I'm going all in. So the first section of that is you go to Bible College up at Tyldesley Bible College in Scotland. I went for a month. I think everyone goes for a month, but you potentially could go longer if you wanted to go slightly longer. And that's just to get a really good grounding in biblical knowledge. You also have some experience doing a couple of placements while you're up there. And it's a great experience where you just get to just learn more. It's sort of one of those instances where everything you think you know it's true, but not in the way you thought it was. So it's kind of, I spent the first couple of weeks having everything I thought I knew kind of stripped back and then built up biblically and correctly. And it was a very mind-boggling time, but it was so much fun to get to spend so much time with other Christians, a lot of whom were a similar sort of age to me, that were passionate about learning about Jesus and about the Bible. So that's the first section. I now need to pause and breathe. I'm sorry. When I'm nervous, I talk really quickly. If anyone needs me to repeat any of this, I'm happy to repeat some of this. Tyldesley College. So I did that from September to October. I then went from Tyldesley College to a church in Swansea. I went and did my UK placement with 2 churches, Dunvant Christian Fellowship with Phil Davis, who some of you might know, and Custon Chapel, which is in the Mumbles, which is about 20 minutes, half an hour away. And I was there for, how long was I there for? 8 weeks, I think, because I think on the program they suggest, I think, 4 to 6 weeks, but again, it's really personal, and you can say what your passions are and what you want to do, and they will make allowances for that. So I was there for 8 weeks, and then I went back again after Christmas, and then I've been going back every year since, so they haven't managed to get rid of me yet. But this is a placement where you just get to get stuck in with UK ministry and everything that is involved in being part of a church services, coffee mornings, toddler groups, kids groups, youth groups, school assemblies, everything under the sun, really. I think I got to try, and some of it I loved, some of it I didn't get on with, but it was a massive learning experience for me. And I've never felt God in such a real way as when I was just getting involved in all of those different activities, and just getting to spend time with real people talking about Jesus, and their relationships with him, or their lack of relationships with him, and just real life. Because up until this point I'd been in school, which is real life in its own way, but the real world is much different. So it was kind of, I got fired into the real world from a cannon, it felt like, and it was just yeah, amazing and incredible.
And talking about being fired like a cannon, I was with you through this whole year, but the next part was the real challenge, wasn't it? The real, everyone in First Serve gets the opportunity to go abroad if they want to. And where were you placed, Izzy?
I went to India, which I still can't wrap my head around. It's been 2 years and I'm still like, I can't believe I went to India. It was wild.
Yeah, that was talk us through that. Just all the, for you, that was a big thing, wasn't it, Lizzie? It was a big actual test, really. It was a very testing time in so many different ways. So just talk a little bit about that and how God prepared you for that.
Yeah, it was quite a big test because again, it was kind of, it's all new and exciting and I get to go on a missions trip and can't wait. So I chose India, not because I necessarily felt like I had a particular calling to India, but it just sort of grabbed my attention and I thought that'll be fun, which is probably not the spiritual answer that some people would want, but that's why I chose it and I was really excited. And I felt lots of people were encouraging me and giving me advice, and the people that I was doing my UK placement with had been part of OM India, so they'd been telling me stories about their mission in India the whole time while I was there, which was just getting me more and more excited. And then I flew out and then it hit me that I was 5,000 miles away from home. And I got very homesick and very jet lagged all in the first week. And God is very faithful. God is so faithful. He never left me and he was constantly supporting me, but it was really, really difficult to adjust. I think I spent like the whole of the first week on the phone to my mum and to Aderyn, just crying, going, I think I want to come home. But luckily I couldn't. So I was stuck there. And yeah, God brought me through that. He brought me kicking and screaming at times, but it was a big challenge.
It was really, from our perspective, it was hard for us to see you struggle when you were first there, but we saw you working and wrestling with it, and the transformation from our side was incredible because we saw that you had just deepened in your walk with God and that you were actually having that time to commune with him, and it was a really, really blessed time. And you could even at the end afterwards, hey Lizzie, you would say that it was a very special, unique but blessed time. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the thing was, it was such a big culture shock and I was so far removed from everything that I thought I knew that I had to rely on God. There were no distractions to fill that hole other than God. I had no choice but to get all of my strength and all of my resilience and all of my joy from God, because at times I just felt so lost. But I feel like I'm being very negative about this. Looking back, with the benefit of hindsight, absolutely incredible. It was the most transformative, life-changing experience. I was there for 2 months and I made so many friends and I got to try so many new things. And yeah, God definitely blessed me more than the people that I was out there working with, for sure. But it was just such a wonderful experience to get to spend time with them. The girls in particular, I was working with girls in a youth hostel, and just to get to spend time with them and see them so enthusiastic about just living for God in the environment in which they had been placed was just absolutely incredible. And yeah, it completely changed my life.
That's awesome. And so what happened then? So you came home after this quite transformational experience, and what happened then?
I slept for a week. Because jet lag coming back was just, it knocked me for 6 a little bit. But no, then what I did was I went back to Swansea because they wanted me to do a follow-up placement. So First Serve is really, really good in creating this support bubble and following through. So I went back to Swansea and I got to go back and tell everyone that I had formed relationships with over these 2 months that I was there, what I had done, where I had been for the 3 months that I'd been away, what I had done, how it had changed me, and then get stuck back in and use everything that I'd learned back in this UK setting, and got to see all my friends that I'd made, and it was wonderful.
That's awesome. So that was First Serve. What were your highs, and just briefly, because I want to talk about team as well, what were your highs and what were your lows, just briefly?
Okay, sorry, I'm not good at brief. I could talk about this all day. Highs would be developing my relationship with God and making that real and deep and having that for myself, because I had to have it completely by myself. I couldn't take bits from other people, because it was me and I was having to do things on my own. And just meeting loads of new people. I went to so many different places and met so many incredible people, most of whom will probably now be friends for life. My dearest friends I met while I was doing First Serve. And yeah, just the whole experience of learning and growing, learning about myself, learning about God, learning about ministry, and all of those things is just amazing. And then lows, I would say, were the initial homesickness, in all three settings, I would say, not just in India, but also slightly in Swansea and in Scotland, because I was fresh out of school. I'd been living with my parents, and then I got on a bus and said, all right, see you at Christmas, which was challenging. I kind of had to step up and be a grown-up, which was quite scary, but it brought me through a lot. And then it's really hard to pick out lows, because there were things that I enjoyed less, but they taught me lessons which I really value, so therefore it's a high. But I don't want to say that it was all smooth sailing and fantastic, because I think I was expecting it to be all smooth and wonderful and rosy because God had opened the door. And yes, God had opened the door and he sustained me through it all, but it was a roller coaster. It was all over the place.
Oh, I love your honesty there, Lizzie, and we love journeying with you through that. But then we come on to team. So team is another missional placement, but in a different way. So talk us through what team is.
Okay, so team stands for Training in Evangelism and Mission. It's run by Counties. Counties looked at First Serve and went, hey, we like that, but we want to do one that's more UK based. So they made one that was more UK based. I was the first official year that they ran it. So there was lots of learning curves. It's a really, really good program. Let me say that first and foremost. But there was lots and lots of learning experiences across the year with myself and my friend Tom, who also did the program with me. Because it's all UK ministry, but it was figuring out how it works. So we again spent time in Tyldesley College. It was another month that we spent there. We went in, when did we go? I think we went in the February rather than the September. So I learned new things, met new people, and then we went to a number of different churches, but predominantly we were shared between Forest Community Church and Dunban, which is the church that Tom's at. So we sort of switched, and then we're together at one and together at another, and then switched back and all over the place. And then COVID hit 6 months in.
Well, and I know that it was a real shock for you when COVID hit. It was a shock for everyone. And Tom returned to his church in Dunban, and you obviously returned to our church here. And I must say, I mean, that's kind of where we're ending our story, but it's been a blessing for us because you continue to serve our church in high capacity during those, and you still do, those first initial months of COVID. And you were a vital resource for us. So how was that though? How, that wasn't exactly how you expected it to end, was it?
No, definitely not. And I think there was definitely a grieving period for that, just because it all happened so quickly. and I can't claim, like, it will, I was very grateful, actually, looking back, for all of the opportunities that I've had to have. And I've been very lucky that COVID hasn't affected me personally or hit anyone too close to me too badly. But yeah, there definitely was that grieving period. But actually then, yeah, God brought me through that, and he gave me this incredible opportunity to keep volunteering for the church in actually a larger capacity than I was beforehand, because I was still doing stuff with team at the church, and I was still very involved. But when this happened, as a young person who had been developing my video editing skills for various reasons across First Serve and team, just sort of as a hobby, and I do the odd video for youth and things like that, to then suddenly all of church be online, it was suddenly, oh, I have this skill, I can help, I can do stuff. And it was really exciting for me, for God to have given me the opportunity to be so involved in that process. And yeah, it kind of felt almost like my first bit of real responsibility as an adult in my own right, because this is a church that I've grown up in. I came to this church when I was 6, so I've very much always kind of been Lizzie, the crazy child. But yeah, COVID kind of gave me the opportunity to come into this church as, no, Lizzie the adult in her own right. She's not her parents' child. She is her own grown up, and she has skills and gifts from God that she can use, which was really helpful for me. I hope it blessed the church. They haven't kicked me out yet.
It definitely did. And I think that whole transition, though, that's going through First Serve, through team, and you've also done One to Lead as well. They have all prepared you for that re-entering church as an adult and being seen and valued in that new stage of your life. So it's been a transformative process. So Lizzie, would you recommend First Serve and team and One to Lead?
Absolutely. Do it 100%. I mean, do what you feel you are called to do and what you want to do. But yeah, I went to a sixth form where the pressure was very much on, you do sixth form, you do your A levels, and then you go to university. And I didn't want to do that. And I wish someone my age had come up to me and said, no, it's okay, do a gap year. You'll learn way more than if you go to uni first year. Take a year out, breathe, focus on your relationship with God, learn, develop, try new things, experience new things. And then if you want to go to uni, that's fine, go to uni. If you want to carry on in ministry, keep going in ministry. Doors will open. Just pray about it and let God be part of that decision making. And yeah, try new things. It's what your teens are for.
Oh, that's fantastic, Lizzie. Well, thank you very, very much. And so, Aderyn, I think we'll open up the floor there. If anyone has any questions about what we've discussed tonight.
No problem. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for tonight. One question, Lizzie, for you, which is something that off sound, obviously, Abigail was talking and just prompted me. What was it like when you was at school being a Christian with all your friends? The Abigail's coming up to 16 in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay. It was interesting. I mean, I was very lucky in that I had a group of friends who were very open to hearing about it. None of my friends were Christians, but both in secondary school and in high school, I had 2 separate friends who were Jehovah's Witnesses, which was really interesting dynamic to have, because often it would be our friends who didn't believe in Jesus versus us together, even though we actually believed slightly different things. We would often bounce off each other when answering questions, so that I really enjoyed that. But it was difficult being the only Christian. And yeah, I just want to encourage you that if you're feeling a little bit alone, you're not. But I know it sucks sometimes, and I want to validate that it is difficult, but God is always there, and he brought me through it. And then you leave school and suddenly you can do what you want. But yeah, be encouraged. You can do this. I believe in you. God's got you.
Anybody got any questions at all?
Can I ask a question, Adrian? So sorry, it's Lizzie and Bob, and really to Lizzie, really. Apart from the fact that actually one thing that's really good was your bookcase behind you. I was just fascinated by it. And talking about interesting things, you got an American football helmet somewhere, it looked like, and then some sort of things like look like something out of Doctor Who beside them. So it was just bizarre. But anyway, I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to ask you a question actually. I mean, what you talked about was really exciting. I know a lot of young people do gap years. I'm particularly interested at the moment about your perspectives around COVID, and I mean, you sort of were doing you sort of had your year and you're away, and then it got a bit messed up, and you came back to your home church and in a new place, and that's because God's done so much. But I was actually wondering, just from experience about young people going into these things, about what your feelings are around young people and how COVID is really impacting. Because I know we're seeing a lot of young people who are just so disrupted in things like education, going to uni, doing all sorts of other stuff, really. So whether you want to say anything about that, or anything particularly about support we can give to young people around that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I will say, first off, this isn't real. This is a virtual background. So I hate to disappoint you. This is not my bookshelf. It's a fake one because behind me is a little bit of a mess. But yeah, I mean, COVID's been difficult for everyone, and I don't want to take that away from anyone. But I do think it's been particularly difficult for young people because, yeah, not only has education been disrupted, but it's the time of life where you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and where you're going to go. And people, I mean, it's been hard for everyone. I really don't want to take away from that, but yeah, it's been difficult for young people, and I would just say, just encourage them and surround them, and yeah, try and hopefully let them know that this won't last forever. Hopefully, I mean, yeah, I've been really encouraged by a games night. My friends my age and I, from a couple of different churches, actually, we meet up on Friday nights and play games together and just get to spend that time together on Zoom, which, yeah, it isn't perfect, but it gives us that opportunity to spend time together. So yeah, I would just encourage them to, yeah, hang on. It does suck, but God's got a plan, and it's gonna be over one day. We're getting there. We're nearly there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it is there, and I think it's all right saying actually that it's affected everybody, and yes, it has. But I really do feel for young people actually, because I think lockdown is just, those of us who are a bit older, we're established in our homes and we're quite happy to just sit around at home all day, and sort of, but I think for young people it's been a real struggle, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's sort of, bless you, thank you.
Then what's it been like developing a ministry for social media? Because I know you're obviously involved in the social media side with Forest Community. What's it been like getting out there, communicating the gospel and your set of services online?
Yeah, that's been a real learning curve for us. It's been really exciting, but we kind of saw the writing on the wall with COVID, and so our first kind of service was just a Facebook Live with a phone, and it was rough and ready and all those things, but it was there. But we quickly realized that we needed to do more, and our first port of call was to keep our church congregation together, keep continuing to have church together, to continuing to have fellowship. But very, very quickly we realized that actually God wanted more from us, and it was to be, to reach the lost, to reach the broken, to use this time to actually further our impact online. So that's been a learning curve, and as a result of that, I currently work for the church to particularly do media and use connect our church online, but also to reach those who don't know Jesus. And so there's been a lot of research into that. How do we talk to people and engage online and actually get them to engage with us back? So that's been a really exciting time for us, and how it's also impacted us as a senior leadership team of how we move forward. So there's been lots of prayer as a church, lots of digging into God's word and seeking his will for us. But how do we kind of connect these two, what you would think are quite disjointed online presence and in-person presence, but how do we connect them together and form church with these two different things? So that's our next challenge.
So good. Did you see the question, Lizzie?
I did, yes. I mean, yeah, India's massive. So people ask me this all the time, and then are surprised when they don't know when I tell them where they are, where I went. So I flew to Bangalore, and then I was working with a charity called the Bethesda Trust in a tiny little village called Pagadupatu, I think. I can't remember. I'm probably not saying that correctly. And it's about an hour away from Salem. So it's in the south of India, for people who don't know India very well. It's in the south of India. If I had a map, I could probably show you. But yeah, so Bangalore is south and sort of just east of centre. And then I was up in a little village in the hills, about 6 hours away from the airport. I didn't realise how big India was until I had to take a 10.5-hour flight to this airport, and they were like, oh, we're really close, we're 6 hours away. And then spend another 6 hours traveling in a car and then up a hill, and yeah, it's really big, but it was very nice. I went in March as well, so it was just coming out of like the cooler season and warming up slightly, so the temperatures were sort of high 20s, which was just like ideal because it wasn't super hot, but it yeah, it was way more warmer than England.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions at all?
Yeah. Lizzie, what do you do as a career?
As a career, that's a good question. I don't really have one. Yeah, so COVID hit and I was volunteering for church, and then I decided that I wanted something else to fill my time. So I'm now also studying part-time with the Open University, which is an online university, so I can do it all from home. And I'm studying art history and English literature. I also have an Etsy shop, which is an online platform where I can sell paintings that I do. I really like to paint and do images like that, so I sell that. But in terms of a career, I don't really have one.
It's still in the making.
It's still in the making. I'm only 20.
Only
20. I know. I feel very old, which a lot of you may not appreciate, but it's a bit scary being 20.
Anybody got any other questions at all, please? What I'm going to do, ladies, I'm going to hand back to Magnus for a minute. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Oh, you're welcome.
For having us.
Yeah, it's been good to be.
If you have any more questions, and if you want to direct them through to me, then we can send them on for you to reply back directly to them. Magnus, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask actually, how do you get on with the community over lockdown? Have you got any stories about non-Christians who've been impacted by the work you've been doing and the social media stuff you've been doing?
Was that to me, Magnus?
Yeah,
you talk. I've done too much talking.
No.
That's right. I didn't want to leave you out.
No, not at all. It's really great to hear from Lizzie. No, so it has been very impactful, Magnus. Yes, it's we have seen people come to faith who have not even met us in person, just through our online ministries, and that's through our church services. We do a Christianity Explore course online as well. And we've got people waiting for baptism. So we do full immersion baptism. So we can't do that yet. And it's been incredible. We've had prayer requests. We've had 84-year-olds who've come back to church because they've been able to access something. And because it's that, there's no, we're trying to remove the barriers to church, and being online has actually been really helpful and beneficial for people, because they can come in and watch church as an outsider and not have to deal with being worried about people asking them questions, or being uncomfortable just trying to get in through that door. People deal with all kinds of worries and fears when it comes to coming to actual church service. So it's been incredible to see how many people have connected. And of course, because of the troubling times, been the challenging times, people have sought prayer, they've sought answers, and they have turned to the church for that. So it's been great for us to have those virtual doors wide open.
Excellent. Do you want to pray for us all, just as we close? So we thank you so much for your work, and I'm sure you can keep it. But Lizzie, if you want a job, speak to Ron Skelton, who has set up Ready for Christ, a new charity, reaching out to the young people in. You're going to hate this, Aderyn. Sorry, but there's a job for you, I'm sure, with that. We're open Reddit, or anybody you may know. They're looking for some interns, and it's an exciting new project.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay. If you want to just close off in prayer, that'd be great.
Is that me, or would you? Oh, Lizzie.
Both of you together. Yeah, that's good.
Go for it, Lizzie.
Okay. Put me on the spot now. Okay. Heavenly Father, thank you that you've given us the opportunity to gather together this evening and just to listen to me talk. No, I'm kidding. Thank you that we've had the opportunity just to share our testimonies and share a little bit about our lives and the journeys that you've brought myself and Aderyn on, Lord. And I pray that something that one of us has said will have touched somebody, Lord, and that, yeah, just that you'll be glorified through this meeting, and that it will give people food for thought. So I thank you for the opportunity that we've had, and I pray that you will just bless everyone here as they go out and continue their week and go into next week, Lord, and just that they will really know your presence. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Yes, Lord, we thank you for this time that we've shared this evening, time to share actually about the journeys that you've taken both Lizzie and myself on, and how different they are, and that actually we are just made so completely uniquely, and that you've shaped each one of us for your specific purposes. And it's incredible, Lord, how we can cling to your promises, and they are so firm and they are steadfast, and you are unchanging, and that you will make firm our steps, Lord. You know, those who delight in you, you will help us not to stumble. We won't fall, and Lord Jesus, you will just uphold us. And we are grateful for that. And for anyone who's here on this call tonight, Lord, we just pray that if they're seeking you and asking questions about their purpose and your will for them, that you will just be so real with them, and that you will be clear and directive, and that they will just delight in the path that you have set for them. So we thank you again for this time, and we just ask you to be with each one of us, we pray. Amen.